Hello, my name is Chloe. Make masks with me. There are a couple of really important things to say before we start. The first is, while I filmed almost everything that I was doing, I compiled 4 hours worth of footage. 4 hours. This is what we came up with this episode. And I will show you and tell you how I'm doing that as we go. He's adorable, I love him. You'll notice that he doesn't have any ears or horns yet. That's fine, that's the next episode, because ears and horns and appendages of any description need a little bit of extra attention, and I'd rather do that in a different way, I think. What you need today is a pair of scissors, you need some gum paper, you need a craft knife. If you can get one of those, please don't let your children have it. They are very, 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 very sharp. And what was the last thing? Yeah, gum paper and water, scissors, scalpel. I think that's about it. We start by building up the eyebrows. This face that I'm making right now is really flat. There's not much variation between the nose and the cheeks. It all just kind of stays in one piece. So I started by bringing the eyebrows forward and the nose forward. Everything needs to come right the way out, which is another reason why the eyes are really deep set. I started with really massive chunks of toilet roll. And you can really go for it, especially as you start out. I know a lot of people making really small, delicate masks will, progress very carefully and very slowly. If that's your method, absolutely fine. That is not my method. I work as a whole. I have to do everything at once, kind of bringing it together as a whole and bringing it forward as a whole. And I think that's a better way to do it with masks as well, because if you find, if you work on your eye, finish your eye, move on to your nose, and decide you want to change your eye around. So we're starting with massive pieces of toilet paper. And you don't have to cover it all, especially when you're starting out, when you're starting to build a shape. You don't need to have it all covered, because then if you change your mind, you can tear it out again, which is really, really, really useful. Once I got the eyebrows and the nose a bit forward, I then started working on the cheeks, shaping them out and bringing them up over my eyes. Now, as I was saying in the last episode, you have to be very, very careful with the eyes. So if I show you in here, I don't know if you can see, but where I've brought it up to cover my eyes, it's not touching my face anymore. I built it out enough so that you can build it up without damaging yourself. As you go. And the same with the nose, actually. If you see that the shape of the nostrils is a completely different shape, but inside it's still exactly the same. So I had to build it out and then kind of build a tunnel almost for the air to come through my nose. But that was really fun. You can see that the shape of the bone structure here has been altered a lot. So the bone now goes up here. So the bone finishes here. This is where the eye socket is, which is far higher up than on my face. If you change your mind about what you're doing at any point, you can take a scalpel to it. You're gonna have to be really careful as you do so though, because it's very sharp. If you're using the scalpel, use it away from your body, not towards your body, away. away from your body so you don't accidentally slip and stab yourself. I have done it. It hurts, don't. The mouth, so essentially what I did was that I cut from my jawline. You know when you press into your cheeks and you can feel your top load of teeth and your bottom load of teeth? Yeah, I drew a line in the middle of that. So when I cut it forwards, I would cut between the jaw and then I drew a line over the mouth. I would then re-hem everything. But as I reattached it, I left the jaw open, so I kind of twisted it downwards a little bit and reattached it. So theoretically, after that, it should fit your mouth if your mouth is open. When you're making your gum paper base, don't try and put on a facial expression as you're trying to make the gum paper base. I've done that, doesn't work. You can add an expression to it now. This is what this is for. Yeah, so reattaching the jaw made it really, really weak. I had to spend so much extra attention on this part where it was rejoining because it was then so much thinner than the rest of the face. The jaw had to be lowered. Basically, you build up lots of bits of toilet paper, you scrunch it up, you shove it on the end, you know. With brute force and ignorance, you can make your way through this. If something goes wrong, you can fix it. If nothing else, then by taking a scalpel to it, or a craft knife to it, being very careful as you do so. Remember that every adjustment that you make, you need to re-hem it. You will see also where, as you're kind of cutting into it, you will see it kind of fray. You will see the parts of it kind of come apart. That's not what we want. You can't have, no. You want to be reattaching as you go. Yeah, so once I'd had the mouth open, it was still in the wrong position. It was still set in the wrong place. It looked a bit too smiley. This is lockdown. We don't smile at all. We have to stay miserable. So, I had to kind of bring down kind of the part that was raised and then cut out again to make it a downturn, a very, distinctive downturn. As you keep putting it on, you kind of want to adjust the inside as well as you go with the same method of the craft knife. You need to be able to kind of adjust from the inside. Keep putting it on. I can't stress enough. Keep putting it on. Figure out where it's pinching, figure out what isn't working, and adjust it. The beard. Essentially, I grabbed a bit of toilet roll, I stuck it on the chin, and then I wrapped it up in gum paper. You don't have to be, particularly neat. Everything can be changed, everything can be... But also, Now that the mask is like this, now it's got so many layers of gum paper, this thing should be completely indestructible. This will change when we put the appendages on, like if we're putting on massive horns and ears and stuff, you're going to have to be careful not to bash it, not to, you know, like this one here, which is now coming loose. So it's not going to be indestructible once you got them on, but at this point, I hope that made my point. Don't worry too much about it being smooth. You want the shape, but texture is something we can work on later. I did work extra hard to make this one smoother than it normally is, because this is probably where you want to be. I tend to cut corners, and that's fine. You just need to know where you can make it up. And for me, cutting corners and making this a little rougher than it should be means that I'm going to work extra hard during the gesso and sandpaper stage to try and smooth it out. I mean, I actually think that gum paper has a rather lovely texture to it anyway. When we get to the painting, I'll show you that a lot of the time when you don't smooth it out, you can make this really lovely kind of texture by dry brushing over the top. Can't wait to tell you about dry brushing. Oh, that technique saved my life. So for the lips as well, you want to tear off like a small little bit of gum paper and kind of roll it into a line, into a line, and then you can kind of place it and stick it down with thin, tiny strips and kind of push it forward and outwards. And you kind of want to do the same with the eyes as well if you're doing more detailed work on eyes than I am, because obviously this is just cheekbones. So then I went off camera and I tidied it up. There are ways to make it more comfortable as well. If you find that your mask is too loose when you're wearing it, you can put in some sponge. If it's too tight, you can cut it away. It's really cool. This is my favourite part. It calms me down. It's repetitive and it's wonderful. You know, you can feel this thing coming to life. And yeah, I went over and I continued to work on the nose because my problem at that point, after I turned the camera off, was that the nose was far too flat. So I had to build it up and round it and then smooth out the rest of it. You'll notice that I haven't worked at the back at all. That's for later and doesn't actually need that much of your attention. But another thing you can do to test its strength, instead of chucking it on the ground, however tempting that might be, don't actually do it. But instead, what you can do is give it a knock. There it is. So, as you go around and knock it on different areas, you might hear it becoming slightly hollow and you will hear the paper moving about. If it's not strong, you need to have this noise all over it. And then finally just building out the nose. I think the way that I did it this time was using small circles of toilet paper kind of coming inwards as I went. And again, it's that thick over my nose. It's that thick, so you can kind of build up this weird tunnel and then shape the tunnel to get to the shape of the nostrils that you want it to be. So you should have one of these. We'll be looking at ears and appendages in the next episode. I hope you've enjoyed. I really do. If you have any questions, if you need help, I am more than happy to give you a hand. My Instagram is mythology masks. I'll put a link in that in the description. Like, share, comment, if you want. I love you all. Stay safe. Stay indoors. Please.